top of Taf Daled on Aleph. Daled on Aleph. Boy Minei Rava ben Nachman. Choyse Yodom Lea Peres. Yotzia B'chutz. So if somebody has something in his hand, Peres, whatever it is, and he's inside and he sticks, this is, which we were just discussing, Mau lahachziru la'oisa chatzer. Is it permissible? Again, there's really the shah that we just discussed. This is the original question. Is it permissible? In other words, again, the question is what we said yesterday is maybe Chazal said you should have done this. This is a very dangerous game he's playing. You're sticking your hand out in Rosh Hashanah. So, what are you doing? So maybe Chazal should say that we're going to ask you, we're going to knas you, or perhaps we're going to make your hand like a caramelist. So, Amalei mutter. No, it's mutter. There is no penalty. What about if I'm going to take advantage? I put it over here. I stuck it outside to the Chatzer. Sorry, this is not. Sorry, this is not. This is not. So here, all he did was stick it into the Chatzer. I'm sorry, I should have said. Well, no, it's not. It's no, sorry, the chutzpah. No, I said it right. The chutzpah is shusarab. He wants to bring it back to where he was in the same Chatzer. He stuck his hand out to the Chova and Ches. Now you want to bring it back in the Chatzer. Now what about if I want to put it in the next neighbor, the Chatzer Cheres? I want to pass. So I'm kind of abusing it a little bit. I'm sticking outside, and I'm going from one. You're not allowed to go from Shus Yochid. We'll see in Shabbos. You're not allowed to go from bring things from Shus Yochid to Shus Yochid either. I believe that's the Rabbanan, not the Raisa, but here, once I stuck my hand outside, I have to bring it back. So can I bring it back into the Chatzer next door? So he says, that's a good question. That's awesome. No. Is that? Ultimately, what you're doing is you're transferring. You're kind of going from Rosh Hashanah from your Chatzer to your next year, to another Rosh Hashanah that you can't do. Umayshna. And why is that? So what's the reasoning? So that's a good question. If you'll, it's like a joke. Rashi says, if you'll measure me, you'll measure a kur of salt. You count up because obviously it's like impossible. I'll explain it to you. But the answer is Hasam is avida machshavte is avida machshavte, which basically means that what I effectively accomplished something. I did something. In a Shabbat, the concept of malacha we saw is I'm changing a status. I'm doing something. That's malacha. So as long as I'm just bringing my hand back to where it was, I didn't do anything. Here is avida machshavte. I'm doing some plan of moving the produce from one place to the other place. That's also that's some type of otzah. Not the raisa, but it's also. So okay, we're right to go by Rabbi Barabai he big pass betano or tiu lo the dois so can she over the chiv khatos so. Okay, this is a very important question because this comes up a lot in life. We'll see in a second. In other words, this person messed up here. He put the bread in the oven. And he messed up in a very bad way because he'll be chayv chatas, which is a big problem. So he'd be pas b'tanu yitula l'doisekanim shevu chatos aloi too. So now the question is, do we allow him to rectify it? You only chayiv when you bake something when it's baked. So if you go in the oven, you take it out, you extract it from the oven, so then it won't be baked, then it won't be chayiv. So do we allow a person to do that? Now, we say, yes, well, what's the big deal? The big deal is that this is something Chazal forbid you to do. You're not allowed to put, bread out of the oven, even not in general, even like stam to take bread out of the oven. You bake bread before Shabbos in the oven. This is somewhat. It's also a derabanan malacha. It's also it's a process. It's a certain skill. It's a chachma. You want to say before. So it's therefore it's also. So do we now? So basically, the question here is, can you do a small isser to prevent a bigger isser? That's the question. So he answers. That's right. So he answers. The whole question is seemingly very irrelevant because if it was b'shaydik and he hasn't realized it, so then there's no question. Like he doesn't know about it. He didn't realize, so he still doesn't realize. And we'll see in a second. Maybe he realized. So if that's the case, Michayev, would you be chayev? Would there be a chatas then? But no, we learned chayev chatas. Ein chayev shetzchasen nishkog b'sei nishkog. A chatas is it's just it doesn't. The fact you started by mistake, but if you became aware of it, that already removes its status of a shaydik to some extent. Not that you're doing it b'mezid then, but you won't be chayav chatas anymore. Chatas is a very special situation where you did something by mistake, and it allows a very specific kapara for that, with the korban. But the second you realize in the middle of the process that it's not a chatas, it's not a shkoga, you don't bring a chatas. So the question is irrelevant. So what would be the shaila? You realized it, okay, and so you won't be chayav chatas anyway afterwards. So what's enough gemina? El b'mezid. So he did it intentionally. He says, I don't care. I want my bread. I'm putting it on Shabbos. And now I see, you know what? I don't want to be over this. I don't want to be chayv skila. So kodem shel yisur skila mi boile. Al Rav Shila loyla m'shoigeg. No. Sorry, that was a question. In other words, so el b'mezid. So what are the guys asking? So if he did it b'mezid before skila, why is that a question? Probably, obviously, you should take it out. There's nothing to ask. Yeah, don't get yourself chayv skila. Yeah, not so smart. You want to take it out. What choice do you have? So Amr Rav Shila lo'ila b'shogeg. So you ask the question, well, if the shogeg doesn't know about it. Oh, so here's an interesting thing. L'mani tiur l'chachamim. L'chayrim. Meaning to say that this is an interesting question that can you do an isser to help your friend that he won't give you a small isser to prevent your friend from doing a larger isser? That's the question. You saw the guy do this. You want to stop him, but you're going to do an isser to stop him. Are you allowed to do that? So if you're asking for a sheish, if you're of course not. What you don't tell someone else to do a veira to give a schuz to somebody else. It doesn't work like that. That just goes into it. Sometimes it seems like we do, but certainly if that was, I think the bottom line is if he was negligent and he did something he should have done, so now you have to go do an avera because of what he did. That doesn't make sense. And the Omer Avashi the oil of amazing. So let's go back. Let's say it's amazing, but he's going to be over skila. So let's change. In other words, I think maybe I explained slightly wrong before. In other words, the question before we couldn't accept skila because that wasn't the question. The question is, the whole question is sheyovnei chatos. Sorry, I read slightly wrong the wrong. I'll go back for 1 second, read the line before. Amazing question relates to skila. So how can you say the issue is skila when the word doesn't say, the question didn't mention skila, it mentioned chata. So now we're basically saying, good question, we're going to have to answer that, and we have to change the words, and it really says skila, not chatas. In fact, it's very clearly written in the words of Rabbi Barbaye, in the way Rav Acha bar Rava writes the statement of Rabbi Barbaye. Actually, this is a statement, not a question, as before. So up to more weiter. Pasha Ani Yisyade. So what was the story? The Ani, we always have to go over this Mishnah, Rabbi said. The Ani is standing, the Ani is always the concept is Bachutz. Right? The Ani stands outside, the Balabais is inside, the Ani is Pashit Yadai inside. And that's called the Akira. And then he takes it and so he puts it in the hand of the Balabais. That's the Hanocha. So remember, to do Shabbos, to be over Hatzah, Yisr Shabbos, Hatzah, you have to always do Akira, which here he's doing by taking it out of Shisar Rabim, moving it, that's the Akira, and Hanocha. So he did that, that's why he's Chayiv. So now 1 second. How was he Chayiv then? He put it in the hand of the Balabais. Frankly, more Kasha. We have a rule that in order to be over at Tzayna, you need Akira Hanocha. Now part of that says you need Akira. What is it? You need real Akira. You have to pick it up from something. You can't just grab something floating in the air. That's Akira. So if it's not placed on a space, what's called, you see, this is a point rule in Shabbos. There's a lot of different rules in Shabbos. So one of them is that a choshev space is called 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. That's a space. You have to have a space. So if you pick it up from a space and you put it down on a space, that's called a Akira Hanocha. And here, he's taking it only from the hand of the Ani. So that's not going to cut it. Koleka. Omer Rabba. So the answer is, the answer to the question is, it's a good question, but in fact, it's arguable. That whole issue is arguable. Hamoni Rabbi Akiva. To Omer Loi Ba'inin Mokim Daled Al Daled. So in fact, it's Rabbi Akiva. He actually argues that. Now we're going to show in the next time we learn a case in a Zayrek, and this you'll see it'll be assumed in the case here that you don't really need Dal Dal. Listen to the case of Rabbi Akiva. It's not Zayrek. So this is a new case of Hitzal. Listen to this case. In other words, I stand over here. We're for argument's sake, we're going to assume, let's say, Rechov Ein Ches is a Shusar Rabbi, yeah? Probably not, but it might be, So, I throw, let's say we're going to play catch, play football. Let's play football, right? It's football season, yeah? Throw a football from over here, our Chatzer, into the Chatzer over there. Yeah, there's a Chatzer over there. Across the street, let's see, there's a Chatzer. To the Chatzer over there. So goes Rishus Yachid over the Rishus Harabim into the Rishus Yachid. So that's a special halacha. That's halacha. It says there. It's called Zoyrek. And there, it's a machlekes. Rabbi Akiva says Yechayev. Why Yechayev? Now, usually if you just throw something, Rishus Yachid, you're not Chayev. Hotzah is primarily Midaraisa, is from the Rab, Rishus Yachid, but here it's called going to Rishus Yachid through Rishus Rabim. We learn out from Nagol. That's what they did in the Beis Hamikdash. They passed the beams of the Beis Hamikdash in Nagolas from one to the other, and through the Rishus Rabim, they handed them one to the other. So that's called Moishit from Rishus Yachid to Rishus Rabim. You're here also, okay? So what's Rabbi Akiva's logic? Rabbi Akiva suffer kluta kibisha hund chodami. It's like I'm putting it for Shiyach Rabim, and for Shus Rabim, it's when something flies through a space, it's halachically we see that is in that space. It's there. Just because it's flying by, the football's flying by, it's there. So therefore, it's kluta. I mean, something which is in the space, inside the space, is like it's placed, and therefore, yichayev. I'll just read the whole thing. So what does that have to do with Dalit? So there's a certain logical assumption here. The logical assumption is, if you don't require even actually putting it down, right? The fact that it's flying through is also called munach. So obviously the requirements for what's called placed down are a completely different concept of requirements. So by the same token, it's logical that you would not need to have a placing it on a mokum daled al daled either. Because here you certainly don't have it placed on a mokum daled al. It's flying through the air. Yet Allah views it as munach. So certainly if it's in a hand or something not daled al daled, it's also munach. It's no less. When you put in the hand, the ani puts in the hand on the bayis. So the hand is also in the whatever. It's kemunach. It's floating in the. It's something that's, let's say halachically the hand's like floating, whatever it is, but it's still there. It's no less than the football. Let's do one more line to finish up the name of the pshitale the rabba the b'chut k'mishul chadami. So you're saying rabba. You're saying based on that you want to say rabba wants to argue. Rabba wants to make this connection between this mishnah, this machlekes and a zoyrek, in the parak later on, to our mishnah of Pashina Ani Yadai, which means he accepts that the logic of the Akiva over there is based on this concept of kluta k'mishoncha. Passing through space is like being munach. Ubetoich asara pligi. And they argue within Tachasar pligi. So, frankly, Gemara, and that's the machlekes. And the whole thing is, by the way, you're playing football, but you're doing it on a low pace. You're throwing it low. You're throwing it less than 10 tefachim. And that's why it's munach. Because if it's a high up, it'd be a different story. So when it says there can't be, Rabba. Rabba asked that as a question. The boy Rabba, Rabba himself contemplated what exactly is the point of Akiva and the Rabban are arguing over there. Is the arguing Lamata Pligi, Ubahal Pligi, which would fit well with what he wants to say over here. Is Potter, but if it's above 10, again, also remember, in spaces also, this is another important rule. There's a lot of different concepts we have to get familiarized with, but one concept is 10 tefachim is rishus. So if this is called rishus yachid, it goes up to here. It goes up to about 10 tefachim. Above here, it's already separate space. That's not the rishus yachid. It's its own space. It's a mokum to its own space. So if it's above 10 tefachim, that was the discussion. Lo really kluter b'shul for Rabban Sarvi. So above please, and we would not equate Zoyek with Moshe, because Moshe would be above Yitvachim, and this has nothing to do with that. Or maybe the whole machlekes is Lamala, and it has nothing to do with its munach on the ground, it has nothing to do with Dal Tvachim, how much space it needs to be munach, and it just has to do with this special thing, throwing it in space from Rishus Rabim is Chayv. My time, everyone agrees. So it's nothing to do with Rabbi Akiva. It has now. It's true that everyone agreed to the Mishnah Bayas Dal Dal, but it still bothers us that that's how you're saying Rava. Okay, we'll stop here, and maybe tomorrow we'll try to finish this Amud, and we'll try to do the next Amud, so we'll be ahead and keep our pace. Yeah.